It's time to have some fun and talk about Super Bowl ads. And joining us right now is Scott Baradell, who knows all about this stuff. Scott, thanks for joining us. What'd you think of the Dunkin's commercial with Affleck? I thought they were brilliant.
Funny. I mean, it's great stuff. It's that's one of the best things about the Super Bowl ads is so many of them are so funny because look, it's $7 million for 30 seconds, so you could probably invest in making it funny.
Well, you should. I mean, it has to be entertaining. There's no doubt about it. And we all understand that there are people that will watch the game now just to see the ads. And is that one of the reasons why they're changing the target, if you will, where they want to go healthier and maybe broader base so it's not specified for the sports fan per se, where it's a broader spectrum of products and a broader spectrum of an entertainment angle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Super Bowl is just one of the very few events in this country that everyone still rallies around. I mean, everyone's all in their own little cubby holes and going down, their own, fragmented media and podcasts. This is one thing we all come together for. And, it's increasingly women are among the viewers. We had 47% of the audience was women last year. That was the highest ever.
Women love football. My wife loves football. I mean, women love football.
They're increasingly the ones who are watching it. It's predicted it won't be long before over half the audience will be women.
Yeah, no, I get it. Because I joke with my wife. I'll say, she loves to watch football and hockey. I go, that's because you like to watch men beat the crap out of each other. You're sick. You have some sort of fantasy going on here that's what you want to see. What about the Taylor Swift impact? Does that have any impact on women watching the game?
Yes, absolutely. I just anecdotally, I know that women in my life, my 17-year-old daughter and my wife, they're certainly more. They know who Travis Kelce is, and they didn't before. It helps that the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl every year, and she's there. But I was also going to say, in terms of younger people, you mentioned a lot of the ads this year are about health and health-related ads, which has not been so much the case in the past. And it's also tied, in addition to more women viewers, more younger viewers, say millennials, Generation Z, being more interested in health. Things like products that are non-alcoholic beverages, for example, are a thing this year in ads when they hadn't been in the past. Things like ads about obesity and about breast cancer and other issues that you really hadn't seen as much in the past are really coming to the forefront this year.
Well, is that a PR move by the companies that own these products? Because we all know that these are conglomerates that can own a number of different divisions and so forth. But when I read your summary here about ads of people being healthier, it reminded me of the McDLT. Do you remember the McDLT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember, and for those of you that don't, the McDLT was put out by McDonald's, where it was a styrofoam thing, and on one side you had two styrofoam cups or containers bridged together. And on one side was the burger and the cheese, and on the other side was a fresh tomato and fresh lettuce. And then it was supposed to be healthier, I guess, because the lettuce and the tomatoes were not fried. And then you put it on the burger and you had the McDLT. Well, the McDLT didn't last. I think they probably sold more McRibs than McDLTs. So are people really eating healthier, or is this an image campaign?
Well, just in terms of obesity rates, they did go down in this country for the first time in a decade this past year. Although part of that is because of Ozempic and some of those drugs. But there is a lot of data that shows that younger people are more concerned about their health than older generations, than say Gen X. which is my generation. So that they're appealing to that. But you're absolutely right. These are large. I mean, the company that's doing the breast cancer awareness ad is Novartis. They're huge. Dove is doing a body confidence, a body positivity ad. So yeah, a lot of these are very big companies, and look, it's capitalism, right? They're gonna they're gonna put it all. They're gonna put it all out there and see what people want.
Yeah, I mean, and as long as it's entertaining, nobody cares. But they're not.
Right.
It's not call to action. Whereas, for example, like the Budweiser ads, right? You know, whether it's "What's Up" or "I love the Bud Light Frogs," but what?
Right.
I mean, it's that. It's I want you to go buy a case of Bud at halftime, right, or whatever. Or at McDonald's, I want you to get a Big Mac, or. But now when you talk about the breast cancer awareness for Novartis, it's more image. I don't know if they want to, if it has to do with the price of their stock. I mean, it's just a different thing. And also, though, I will say this because I do have young people living in my house. People want to be healthier, which is very important, and I applaud it. But the social media and the body image has been an issue. And that's also one of the reasons why people want to be healthier. I mean, you know, kids, yes, they're eating better, and that's great, but they also want to be thinner, which is an issue.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. What social media does, particularly for teenage girls, younger women, it can be really tough. But you're right. In general, if you think about the kind of investment that brands have to make, you see a lot of ads that are really not about how many widgets can I sell, but they're about PR. They're about I want to project this brand image that is going to, in the case of Novartis, maybe protect me from, protect my reputation from people that don't like me for being a big drug company, and things like that.
We're going to take a break here, but I do want to get into some specific ads coming up, and I do have some more questions about the methodology here. We are talking Super Bowl ads and what you will be seeing on Sunday when the Chiefs take on the Birds from Philadelphia. Scott Baradell is our guest. We'll have more after this on WBZ.
Now back to Dan Ray, live from the Window World Nightside Studios on WBZ News Radio.
Scott Baradell's with us talking Super Bowl commercials here on WBZ's Nightside. Okay, let's get into some specifics here. I don't know if you remember the 1999 ad, Monster.com, When I Grow Up. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Well, I'm going to explain it to you. Monster.com here in Mass. So the Monster.com ad, and I worked with one of the creative directors on another campaign. Michael E. Kelly was in this ad. He was in it for like 3 seconds. He's on Lioness. He was in that series with Spacey. He's a great actor. So it got killed during the Super Bowl. People hated it. It got crushed. So these ad guys go in, and they think they're going to absolutely get destroyed by the people at Monster. And they loved it for whatever reason. The company loved it. The response was great. The response it worked. I mean, people were going to Monster.com. It was a success. Even though the critics hated it, they considered the ad to be successful. So can it get confusing when we determine, is it a funny ad? Well, okay, but did it work?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's just like, those annoying songs that you can't get out of your head. Or the fact that, you go on Rotten Tomatoes and you'll see that the critics hate a movie, but the audience loves it. It's not uncommon. And what ultimately matters is not what all the ad critics think, but what people think and how it affects brand recognition, brand recall, and ultimately buying products. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I had this. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I just thought of that off the top of my head, and I wanted to make that point that there are really two goals here. Because my buddy, who was the ad exec, said I thought I was going to get fired. He walked in, we got a standing ovation. He goes, "This is the craziest thing," But when you talk about ads and jingles, from college, I remember this hair salon in Brewer, Maine. Bonnie and Clyde, don't you wait. Call 979-7078. And that was like 100 years ago, my friend. So it does work.
It sure does.
Let's get to hey, Rob, can we play Cut 25? If you can. With this, here we go. Let it roll. Betty White and the Snickers commercial.
Mike, what is your deal, man?
Come on, man. You've been riding me all day.
Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
Baby. Eat a Snickers. Better?
Better.
Now, that ad was hilarious.
That hurt.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I stepped on Abe Vigoda. Does that ad sell more Snickers?
Oh, I think absolutely. It gets people talking about it. It gets people reminding them of a Snickers bar, because we all know about Snickers, but sometimes there's a lot of choices at the candy store. Sometimes it's a good reminder.
So, what are some of your favorites?
Well, I think you're right. I thought the Dunkin' ad. I think Ben Affleck returning this year is going to be fun. I think for this year, there's a company called WeatherTech that does car accessories, and they have kind of it's a fun, almost like a Thelma and Louise concept, which has 4 women in their 70s going on this road trip in a 60s, Lincoln Continental convertible. That looks like some fun ads. And just think about these kind of ads compared to what I thought when you thought of Monster. When you mentioned Monsters, I remember those remember those GoDaddy Super Bowl ads?
Oh, yeah.
With the featuring the very well-endowed woman. They don't. That's the kind of ad you're not going to be seeing this year.
Well, yeah, and in GoDaddy, everybody thought it was a porn site, and that's probably when they went to it. Oh, wait a minute! They're gonna help me build a resume or find a job or develop a website. That was it. They thought it was a porn site, and then they said, "Oh, wait!" They were severely disappointed, I think.
Yeah, but they used that approach for several years, and so it must have helped them. But at a certain point, that kind of advertising began to hurt people. It probably has something to do with how the audience has changed too over time.
Does star power matter? Because I remember, Michael Richards did I think a Diet Pepsi ad. Ray Charles, my favorite, was the "You Got the Right One, Baby," with the Pepsi ad.
Right.
That was phenomenal. Does star power matter? Do you have to have a Betty White? Do you have to have a Ben Affleck in there for it to be impactful?
Well, I think it makes it a lot easier. You have to have a very creative concept otherwise. Like just this year, Meg Ryan, Billy Crystal, Shania Twain, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, William Dafoe, Matthew McConaughey, James Harden, take your pick. There's so many celebrities that are going to be in Super Bowl ads this year. A lot of people are really talking about Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal recreating the fake orgasm scene from When Harry Met Sally.
I'll have what she's having.
Yeah, that's a Hellman's commercial this year.
Yeah, that is classic. That is.
Yeah.
I love what was the Budweiser ad with the horses? And then, I don't know if you remember this, the Budweiser ad where the horses are playing football, the ranchers are watching the horses play football, and then they line up to kick. The horse lines up to kick, and one rancher says to the other, he goes, "Man, I thought they'd go for 2."
Well, there won't be a Bud Light commercial this year. That's one thing that's changed.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
And what'd you think of the Bud Light slap commercial from 2007? Do you remember that?
No, tell me about it.
Oh no, they basically just slapped people across the face. Instead of doing a fist pump, they just whack. One guy slapped him across the face, and they could do the whole thing. I didn't think it was one of the best ones. I still love the "What's Up" and the frog one. To me, those were the best ones for Bud. I think personally. Now, $7 million. Did you say for 30 seconds or 60 seconds?
30.
Is it worth it?
Well, it really depends. It can be. You've got to think in terms of a total marketing budget and what portion of it are you spending on that. Famously, back when in the late '90s, when the .coms all started booming, you had all of these Pets.com, all these kind of .coms that had their venture capital money. They blew it all on Super Bowl ads, and half of those companies weren't around in 2 years that spent all their money on it because I think in some cases it's an ego thing. But for an established brand, for a Novartis or a lot of these companies that are giant, $7 million is not a huge investment. It's not like you're putting all your marketing dollars down on this. So I think scale has a lot to do with it, in terms of whether it makes sense or not.
Well, I mean, for Budweiser, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, that's not an issue. How do they measure it? Is there a way to measure this?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to measure. Certainly, these days with everything being digital, you can look at how much is talked about on social media. You can look at visits to your brand's website. You can look at sentiment. You can measure whether it's how people are responding to it on social media. And then, of course, ultimately, you want to see impact in terms of sales. Is it moving the needle? So especially in today's world where so much of what we're doing is happening online and it can all be tracked and measured, believe me, these brands, if they're going to invest that kind of money in an ad, they're going to also invest in checking on the effectiveness afterwards.
Is there a feeling that you can't be left out, though?
You mean in terms of an ad?
Like if I'm Budweiser, right? Let's just say,
Yeah.
like if I'm Budweiser, excuse me. I'm like, man, I really like to cut costs, but I still need $7 million. That's a lot of dough. I still have to be in the Super Bowl. I don't want to be left out. I mean, even if they don't get the return on the sales, like obviously people are buying beer. Maybe it's a bad example, but say Paramount Plus, right? They want to add. Do they have a feeling in order to compete with Netflix, to compete with HBO, or to compete with Amazon Prime, who sells everything from soap to movies? They may not see the return on investment, but they have to be at the party to show that they're playing with the big people.
I think there's an element of that. And, we mentioned like Bud Light that had the big controversy. They're part of the Anheuser-Busch family of beers. And they're not advertising, but their Michelob Ultra is, which has kind of taken over the mantle of their top-selling beer. And by the way, it's one of the reasons it's popular is because it advertises low carb, meaning healthier. Right. So I think they're certainly felt like, hey, we need to advertise, one of our products, and they just changed out. This is the one that we want to put in front of people as the number one beer for us now. So I think there's that kind of symbolic element for brands, and there's certainly competitiveness among brands in industries like that.
I don't drink. I have not consumed alcohol now for 30 years. Is it 30?
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, pretty close to it. But I got to tell you, when I see a Michelob Ultra ad, I'm like, what's the point? I might as well drink water. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm like, why? I don't. Now, is there any data that shows people will stick and watch the game because of the commercials if the game's a blowout?
Yes. I think there's definitely, certainly at least through halftime. If it's a bad game, you'll have a lot of people abandoning it after halftime because there's the assumption that the best ads appear in the first half. People stay for the halftime show, even if the game is not good. And usually you can't tell the game is going to be a bad one until things start to deteriorate for one team or the other in the second half. But this year, there are obviously people enthusiastic about the Super Bowl, but a lot of people are like, oh, the Chiefs again and Philadelphia again, and
it's going to be close. It's going to be a good game. I mean,
should be.
No, it's going to be a good game. No, it should be a good game. But does it cost less? Is it $7 million across the board, whether you go in the first half or second half?
That's a good question. I think placement does affect things, and the exact differences I can't speak to, but certainly they know when people are watching, are most likely to be watching the game, and those are the premier spots to have your ad.
Right. Well, listen, Scott, enjoy the game. I assume you'll be watching.
I'll actually be on a plane at that time, but I'm a very sad Dolphins fan, which is probably like I guess this year being a New England fan, but I'll probably catch the tail end of it.
Don't ever compare the Dolphins to the Patriots, please. Do not do that.
Can I compare the 70s Dolphins to the Patriots? Give me something.
You had a good run, my friend. You still got the undefeated season. We blew that one.
It was 50 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 100 years
That's all
ago.
I got. Let me have that. That's all I've got.
All right, Scott, I appreciate you coming on, and best of luck.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.